So back in the project, to add this server, we could create a totally new project because I will start with this separated solution. I will not serve the Angular app through my Node server simply because I want to keep on using this ng-serve command and this built-in development server the Angular CLI gives us. So we'll use ng-serve to serve the Angular app. We will build a totally separate backend for now. Therefore, we could do this in a brand new folder, in a brand new project. I'll do it in the same folder so that switching between the files is easier and easier to follow for you. I just want you to understand that all this Node code is not actually related to our Angular code. That is why I'll also put it into a separate folder, by the way. I will add a brand new folder next to my source folder and I will name it Backend. The name is totally up to you. Now for now, I won't add files, we'll do this later. What I want to do for now is create a single JavaScript file which will be our server, because that's important about Node.js. Unlike, for example, PHP, where you need a separate server software like Apache or Nginx, for Node.js, you create the server with Node.js too. So you write all that on your own. Therefore, I'll create a new file, and I'll actually do this on the root folder so that it's a bit easier for us to execute. And that is the server.js file. So this is sitting directly in the root folder of our application. Now, this server.js file can now be executed with Node.js. Now important, keep ng-serve running, but we don't need it for now. You could quit it, but keep it running so that we have it available later. And open a new terminal window. Here in my IDE, I can do this with this plus. In this terminal window, you can now execute that server.js file with the node command, which you should have available since you installed Node.js on your machine. So you can run node server.js like this. Now, nothing will happen because it's an empty file. But what you can do is you can dump in a console log statement and say hello. Now, this is, of course, no server-side code. It's not listening to any requests. But we can actually execute any JavaScript file with Node, except for files that try to access something in the DOM, because Node.js is a server-side runtime, there is no DOM. But this can be executed, and you see hello here. Okay, so this is how this works. This is also how we will start our server later. So for now, let's turn this into a server. And to do this, we first of all need to import a package provided by Node.js, the HTTP package. Now in Angular, you always import it like this. Import something from somewhere. Now this is not how we import in Node.js though. This syntax is not supported yet. It will be supported in the future, but even then in a different form, which isn't finalized yet. So we will use the default way of importing in Node.js. And that looks like this. You create a new variable, or since Node in the latest version, which we are using, already supports ES6+, you create a constant because you don't plan on adding this, what we're going to add now. And that can be named however you want, but I'll name it HTTP because now I import with the require keyword. And then the package I want to import is the HTTP package. Now this is not a package we installed, it's not found in the package.json file, because this is a default Node.js package which was installed together with Node.js on your system. Require is the Node.js import syntax, and this simply imports this package and stores its content in this HTTP constant. This is how we import in Node.js. With this imported, we can use the HTTP package to create a new server, because the HTTP package has a create server method here. Now, create server, as you can see if you hover over it in Visual Studio Code, takes a request listener as an argument. So a function it will execute for every incoming request, no matter which path this request targets. If it's targeting your domain or your IP, then this function here will be executed. I'll pass a ES6 arrow function here. So that's a normal function, just a bit more powerful than normal functions. And this function will receive two arguments, which will be passed in by Node.js, the request and the response object. These offer data and utility methods that allow us to work with requests and responses. Now in here, we can do whatever we want with the request. We can later, for example, parse it for the path that was targeted, though we will use Express to help us with that. Right now, we're writing vanilla Node code. More interesting is the response. The response has a couple of methods, and one of them is the end method. This can be used to end writing to the response stream because you can actually write more. You can set headers there with set header and so on. So this can all be done, but here I will just end it and we can pass something to end, like this is my first response, and then this will be sent as text. Now with that, we create a server, but it's not active yet. We need to store that server in a new constant because we'll not change this value. And thereafter, we can call server listen. And to listen, we need to pass a port number. Now, this port during development will be 3000. So we can just set it like this. Though what I typically want to do here is I want to use that port or the default port of the hosting provider I'm hosting this at, because that hosting provider will normally give us that port number we want to host our app at during production. So I will access environment variable with process.env.port, all capital case, or use 3000 if that's not set. Now, environment variables are dynamically injected variables. They're always accessed on process env. That's a Node.js feature. They can be injected by the runtime in which this app runs. And if it's not set, we will use 3000. So this is what will happen during development. Now with that, if we now execute our Node.js file again by running node server.js, you see it doesn't quit, right? It stays here. It doesn't jump back to allowing us to enter new text, because this is now an ongoing process. We're listening for requests. If we now go to the browser, we can visit localhost 3000, and if we hit enter, we see, we zoom in, this, my first response. Okay, this is no English because I forgot the is, but if I add it here and I reload, that's a good example actually. If I reload, nothing changes. Because that already is, well, accidental, but here important takeaway. If you change something on your server-side code, you need to quit the running server with Control-C and restart it. Only then your code changes will take effect. So now if I reload, we see this is my first response. So this is our first very simple Node.js server. This is how we add code and how we update the code. We need to restart. Now, writing all the code just with Node.js would be very cumbersome though. Because, for example, if you want to find out if we targeted just our /nothing path or if we had our domain.com/products, then we would have to parse that manually on the incoming request. The same is for the request body, the request HTTP verb. These are all things we don't want to do. That is why we will add the Express backend in the next lectures.